Andrea Klim, and you are watching Turn to the Stars. And today is April 14th, 2015, and I'm going to be talking about the new moon that's coming up in the constellation of Aries. And this is a new moon right after a total solar eclipse and a total lunar eclipse, so it's pretty exciting for us to have some of that energy of change that came in with the eclipses starting to settle, and this new moon is a symbol that we are making progress, and that's very exciting. So this new moon is coming up this Saturday, April 18th, and as I said before, it is the first new moon in the constellation of Aries since the beginning of 2015, which is symbolic of spring. We really have not had spring, the astrological spring of this new year yet, because of we had the spring equinox on March 20th and that total solar eclipse, but we were at 29 degrees of Pisces, and that was symbolic that we needed to wait for our spring to come, that there were some things that were unfinished and not concluded yet. So as this week progresses and we move toward this new moon, we are experiencing this dynamic, active energy that inspires progress in all of our lives. Very exciting. I'm very excited about this new moon. A new moon in Aries is a signal that spring is finally here, as I said earlier. And we kind of had to look at the last month that we've just experienced energetically, and that eclipse in Pisces, it really brought to light our spiritual orientations, and it brought to light patterns of past suffering and past areas of repetitive, obsessive activity. So this month has been a month of resolving loose ends and releasing old patterns of behavior. And so this new moon in Aries is going to be at 28 degrees. And I have a chart to show you that is really, here it is. And we see it highlighted over there on the right. And we see that's at 28 degrees, really, halfway through. It's very close to 29 degrees of Aries and 29 minutes. And it paints a picture that encourages us to listen to our inner voice and to recognize our own unique rhythm. Aries is a very, very dynamic sign. It's a very active sign. Whenever I feel Aries energy coming my way, I go, get ready, we're going to be moving. And that's exactly what's happening around us with this new moon coming in. This moon encourages us to tune into the music of the world around us as it inspires our inner music, our inner voices to be more active. This new moon inspires us to tune into ourselves and to listen to ourselves and our inner guidance. And I want to encourage you to really trust that voice, that inner voice that you've got going on, because Aries is, as I said before, very progressive. And if we are moving ahead, if we are going forward, it's very important that we are doing that grounded, that we are doing that in an assertive way. And there's a story that I came upon in my reading and my education in the last week. And it came from a book that I am really inspired by, which is a book that talks about core values. And it's this book here called The Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, Mastering the Inner Game of Wealth by T. Harv Eker. It's not really a book about money. It's a book about core values and where our values came from. And there's a story in this book of a man who's hiking along a path on the side of a cliff, and his feet slip and he falls and he catches himself. He's hanging on the edge of the cliff, and he's really struggling to stay and not fall to his death. And he yells out, "Is there anybody out there? Is there anybody up there?" And he keeps yelling and yelling. He finally gets this voice, a very strong voice returning, saying, "Yes, I'm here." And he says, can you help me? And the voice says, let go. And, he wants to know if he can help him. The guy's hanging there, and the voice says, I can help you. Just let go. Trust me. Let go. And you hear nothing for a couple of minutes, and then you suddenly hear the guy who's hanging there go, is there anybody else up there? So he obviously doesn't trust in the guidance that he's getting. So I really wanted to share that story because it is very indicative or encompassing of what we're experiencing. And it is said that, the energy around this new moon is very harmonic, very harmonious in many ways. And it is said that, when we think about music, some of the best musicians are those who are able to tune into and, so to speak, harness the sounds and words of life and nature. We realize that there is music in life created by birds, by running streams, by the waves of the ocean, by the wind in the night. And if we believe that every action causes a reaction, then we understand the natural rhythm of life around us and within us. And what I'm getting to is that this new moon is a time that offers a vibration within ourselves that says, be brave. Explore. Try something new. Listen, and you will hear your internal voice that is singing for joy with an excitement to be alive. And, this is very, very interesting new moon. And it feels like, I would describe it as a breath of fresh air. It does have pitfalls, as there's always that give and take. And we'll discuss some of that later on, some things to be careful of. But I want to talk about on this new moon that, we also have Mars in what I call a trine aspect, which is a very positive open door for good things to come through. And it's giving us the ability to make changes and still changes and to get going with things, to exert our will, and to make some tremendous changes in our lives. Mars trining Pluto is a very, very powerfully intensely active type of energy. When I see this in somebody's birth chart, I go, wow, you've got the energy of, you see that commercial on TV, the Energizer Bunny. That's what I call somebody like that. They've got enough energy for a team of people. So that's a very dynamic person. On this new moon, we also have Mercury in the constellation of Taurus in an applying square to Jupiter in Leo. And I'd recommend that you take care on dragging your heels and or adhering or going back and repeating old patterns of thought. Beware of old values that are learned, which may not be really what your truth is. So take your time to become aware of these, especially in your thought processes. That is what this book is about, and I encourage, I think this is a great resource for people to identify their core values and to make changes in our lives positively. We really need to look at those core values, and it's a great time for that right now. And at the same time, we also have Neptune and Venus in a squaring aspect, so we have to be very clear. We need to take the time, we need to slow down, make sure we're not in the fog, and that we're clear about what our goals are and what we aren't prepared to do. Very important. It's important to be aware of our limitations and our boundaries so that we take some time to contemplate those things. There's this tendency and a potential there to achieve what we set out to achieve with this theme on this new moon, of what it promises us. And there will be avenues also available for us to achieve what we dream of on this new moon, as Neptune is sextile Mercury. So, you've got this opportunity to get some clarity, mental clarity, and insight, deep insight into these areas that you're hoping and wishing to achieve. Opportunities will surface. Relief can be felt by pursuing avenues that come up. This new moon each month, when we have these new moons each month, they are a marker of new beginnings and new realizations. A new moon energy is often described like a birth that occurs every month, and as we see the sun and the moon together at exactly the same degrees in a particular constellation. This one is Aries. And so it really does set us up for this whole new theme of life and of activity, especially Aries. Aries is the path paver, the pioneer. Let's try something new. Let's be adventurous. So this new moon means, when we have a new moon, it means that the sun, as I said earlier, and the moon are together, and they're bringing this synergy of their energies together. The new moon is a perfect time to set your intentions for the future. This period is a wonderful time for planting seeds of whatever kind, what you need, and what you want to manifest. Take some time to really realize what you want to manifest this month. And it is truly a really great time if you're a gardener to plant seeds in the earth, because they're sure to be active and growing. That's the Aries energy. It's going to be warm, and it inspires the sprouting of life. By the time the full moon comes, which is on May 3rd, that is, if you plant seeds right around the time of this new moon, you're sure to see little sprouts coming up by that full moon. Whether you write it down, what your goals are, whether you sing about what it is that you'd like to, that you're moving forward on, or you just hold a thought form in your mind, this new moon is supported of manifesting some fabulous results around the things that you want to draw into your life. And it holds the seeds of the future. It's a great time to get focused on what you want to be heading toward. This new moon in Aries, again, close to 29 degrees, paints a picture of something that astrologers are talking about as the music of the spheres. And I have a picture I want to show you on the screen of the music of the spheres. There it is. And it's really, really an incredible picture when you look at this. And it kind of, when I looked at this picture, it depicts many rooms with different types of music. And all are beautiful and magical in their own unique way. And it is also, they call this the music of the spheres, is a, incredibly beautiful image of music and harmony. Implies harmonies in sounds of all kinds. In this symbol, the words, the spheres, refers to the planets in our solar system. And you can see that there's a lot going on in that picture, many little areas. That's why I described it like rooms. And the scholar Pythagoras observed that the pitch of notes or sounds from each planet depends on the quickness of their vibration, and also that the planets are moving at varying rates of motion. So he concluded that, that the sounds made by the planets' movements are different based upon their motion. And that's really interesting concept. And, there's a German mathematician, Kepler, who is an astronomer, astrologer, and mathematician, said this. He said, "I grant you that no sounds are given forth, but I affirm that the movements of the planets are modulated according to harmonic proportions." And that's really an interesting concept, especially for astrologers that study esoteric astrology, which is a very evolved type of astrological study, which really considers the vibrations and the sounds that the planets make. In astrology, we speak the language of the planets, and we interpret what that looks like. And esoteric astrology, though, really does consider the harmonics. And since all things in nature are harmoniously made, different sounds can harmonize. We know that when you look at an orchestra or a band. So the combination of these sounds, Pythagoras called the harmony of the spheres. And if I could put that photo up one more time of the music of the spheres, that photograph really is also called a cross-section of 13 strand of DNA. It looks like what we call the flower of life, and it feels like the music of the spheres. And it's really quite an interesting image to consider all that's going on in. And it is actually a very intuitive symbol as well. And with this image, it appears that it does not matter if things are going well or not. If you're in tune, what this image says is if you're in tune with your inner voice, this can be a time of atonement on this new moon or attunement with your path. So listening to the life around us, and as we're calling it, the music around, you can, through slowing down enough to receive messages from your own inner voice, get in touch with the beauty of the cycles that go round and round. And as seen through the lens of astronomy and astrology, there comes this understanding of the rhythms of nature and the seasons. And I mean, it's a very natural cycles. You know, these cycles are very natural, that revolve, and you know, they do move like the gears of a clock. And at this time, we're reminded that we each have a musical voice. That's what this new moon energy is inspiring. It's letting us know that we each have this musical voice, which is our own unique sound. So wherever this new moon falls in your chart is really a very dynamic, it's going to be dynamically activated. And so whatever area of your life this new moon is, it's going to be really stirring things up for you. And it's interesting because we do join with others in harmony, and the voices together create alchemy. And that's what that picture is really depicting. So the new theme that comes with this new moon is one of activity, and an astrological new month is being in harmony with our surroundings, and can bring rewards both seen and not seen. And what I would say is that there's keys for this month coming up ahead, starting on April 18th with this new moon. And the keys are that it's bringing voices that can give us messages, tuning into the messages, the beat of our own individual drummer. We should really tune into what our own individual inspirations are, our own individual drives are. And astrology and the studies of, it really does study the rhythms of the planets, and it offers us the wisdom of the harmonies, the chords, the keys, the octaves, and the tones. So we hear things through the planets and their natural harmonies of life. And I thought it was interesting. Yesterday, one of my clients said to me that, the earth seems so sad right now. And I thought about, I said, what I replied is that it's true that what we're feeling now is perhaps some very deep emotions. And over the last month, we've had these emotions that have been surfacing, very emotional time. And some of those emotions were emotions that maybe we packed away or buried. And, and these are emotions that have been surfacing. And that's what an eclipse does. It stirs up things so we can become more aware what's at the roots of who we are, and what we like, what we can change, what we can do something about. And as I said, there's so much motion, but there's also wisdom that's being carried forward along with that emotion. And what I told her is, I said, Earth is a beautiful place to live. And the planets that move with us around the sun paint this beautiful picture of life if we have our eyes open to see it and hear it and feel it. And so really, I really felt like, Earth is a beautiful, beautiful place. We're very lucky here. And so some of the cautions I would advise around this new moon is be careful of inflating rational ideas, delusion or enlightenment, getting lost in abstractions, rejecting what's obvious on an intuitive level in favor of more intellectual answers. I really wanted to also talk about the loving sounds of your own voice, not listening to obvious messages. One of the other things that I see on this new moon is that it is semi-square to Neptune, and that means that we need to use caution around, if something's confusing, pause a bit and really, it's not necessary always that we make adjustments when we're not clear. This new moon is in conjunct Saturn in Sagittarius, and what that means is that we should be careful that we're taking responsibility for what we say and what we project. This new moon has also got a great deal of excitement with it and enthusiasm because of Jupiter trining Uranus in this chart. So there's this growing sense of enthusiasm, and also a growing sense that people are helping others through this time of change. That's a great gift of this new moon. We also see that Venus is just past an opposition with Saturn, and what that meant was, so we're right in that right now. People coming together with respect for each other and their beliefs. So this is all evident as this new moon approaches, and the direction of this month that's indicated by the North Node at 9 degrees Libra is that we have passed through some extreme rapids of energy, and now we're reaching calmer waters. And so, the path toward fulfillment is in relationships is really doing whatever it takes to stay balanced. And, if there's something that seems a little bit off, take some time to discuss it, because, truly we have navigated through some really rough waters, and we are reaching a time of calm as far as relationships goes. It's interesting because this month also there's a lot of astrologers talking about Aries. This Aries energy was going to inspire all of those government political people to come out and announce their candidacy for president, that they're running for the presidential 2016 elections. So that's interesting. We already saw that this past weekend with Hillary Clinton. And one of the interesting things on this new moon is that Pluto in Capricorn begins its retrograde. Actually, that's happening this week, 2 days before the new moon on April 16th. And it stays retrograde until the 24th. And during this time, what's happening is, we're going to be going back over some territory where we've already experienced change on the surface, and now's the time for integration. But during this time, what it does is, with Pluto retrograde, it brings to light internally for us that which is dysfunctional, so that we can figure out how to transform it and eliminate it. During this time, while Pluto is retrograde, there's questions that can arise, such as, are we living as conscious creators or unconscious victims? That's a really good question to take a look at. Where do we give away, or whom do we abdicate our power to? That's another great question while Pluto is retrograde. And the third question I thought I'd bring up is, where and when do we trust our own authority and integrity? These are areas that we are looking at internally. These are areas where, we've had some realization of on the surface, and now through the retrograde through September, it's time to really uncover, whatever's left over. And, we also have Saturn retrograde, and that's going to last till August, so we are going to go back into that constellation of Scorpio, so there might be some shadows still lurking that we need to work on a little bit more. So that's Saturn. Saturn is currently in Sagittarius, so we've already began to work on what we truly believe in, but we're going to go backward over that and figure out whatever loose loose ends are left there. So anyway, I want to say thank you to everyone, and I want to wish you the best of luck in this new movement ahead with the new moon in Aries. And everyone, turn to the stars, and you will find your answers there. And take good care. I will see you next week. Until then, I hope the stars are good to you.